Hey everyone, it's Raz from the Semi-Retired Samurai. I hope you're doing well, no matter where you are in the world. So, you've been working 30 to 40 years, slaving away at a corporate job, or maybe it's your business you've been working so hard for, and you climb the corporate ladder and everything seems perfect. Your career's gone well. You've been able to move up and fulfill a lot of your dreams, to have stability in your life. And then all of a sudden you are here. You're about to retire, or retirement is looming, and you begin to reflect back upon all those years as a youth, because you start to think, wow, where did the time go? It was just yesterday maybe that you were like me, living with a bunch of roommates in our 20s, enjoying life and living on ramen noodles because we couldn't afford to eat really good food at the time. And all those memories start flooding back, and you start to, ask yourself, wow, where did time go? You see your kids grow up, and now they're off to college, or maybe your nieces and nephews, and everyone's gotten a little bit grayer, and you start to think about your own mortality. And it's a weird feeling, because it's kind of like, wow, it was just yesterday that I was just finishing college or getting into the workforce, and suddenly all these things start to become real. And you maybe you get a something in an email or something asking if you're interested in attending your high school reunion or something like that. I know for me, I received an invite a few years ago, and it was literally 37 years since I've seen those people. And I was just like, I can't believe it. I can't believe I am in my 50s. And so we always dreamed about retirement. I know as a kid up here in Canada, we used to get these ads on TV called Freedom 55. And I remember as a kid, because I grew up poor and my parents didn't have a lot of money. So I always thought, oh, that's going to be me. I'm going to retire at 55. And they had this commercial with a couple walking along the beach on an island. And I thought, wow, that's going to be cool. That is going to be me. I'm going to have Freedom 55, and I'm just going to do nothing after I retire. Just lay around the beach and drink margaritas or whatever the case may be. And when it came time to semi-retire a number of years ago, I was initially very excited because I got to step back from my work. So I wasn't in my business all the time. I finally had time to do the things I wanted to do, to work out more, to do other things. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to, fill my day with doing nothing and just relaxing, because I never had a chance to relax as a young child. I was always working ever since the age of 9. And after a few months, I noticed something was missing. And what I noticed was nobody was calling my line anymore. They weren't calling me to ask about business. Everyone was working, so I didn't get calls to go for dinner and stuff like that. And I was okay with that, because I was, for years I was being called and being pulled in all directions. And finally I had what I wanted: quiet. The only problem was I spent my time scrolling this social media just to kill time. And sometimes when my wife wasn't around and I was by myself in the house, I would just eat to pass the time and scroll social media. Before you know it, a few hours had passed, and here I was still scrolling social media. And I began to lose structure in my life. And I was just going through the motions of waking up whenever I wanted, and basically had nothing on my plate to do except, a few things, oversee my business. But, once that was done, I had a lot of free time to do the things I wanted to do. And boredom became complacency, and I started to feel uninspired. And this is what they refer to as the retirement freedom trap. And when people who retire feel bored with life, and I'm going to share with you my experience today and how you can avoid that. Yeah, I start to think back to the decades of deadlines, dealing with coworkers who didn't like. This was when I was working in the corporate world, and dealing with angry customers and stuff like that, and just so stressed out about your job, and you complain about these things when you're actually going through it. But there's a silver lining to all this, and that is that even though despite all the stress and so forth, and for many of us, maybe we're glad to get away from all that, it did give us structure. And I think the beauty of deciding to retire or semi-retire is you no longer have to do that job anymore and conform to it. You can actually rewrite your own chapter and start doing things that you want to do, maybe a business that you would like to work in, that you always want to start. So I think there is some good in having that daily routine, even though maybe we might not like the job that we did. And for most of us, though, I think we need that structure because most of us are not disciplined enough to maintain a daily routine. And I know that left unchecked, many of us would probably just fall to the wayside and become lazy and complacent. Because if there wasn't a paycheck and the need to pay bills, then I think a lot of us wouldn't go to work. And so I think having that routine and having that something to wake up for is very good for us. And I think the other thing that I found that was good for when working was the ability to connect with others, because as humans, that's what we need is human connection, and also fills our day up with things to do, even though you're maybe caught in traffic or doing that, but at least you're keeping busy. And I found when I went into semi-retirement, I began to lose that routine, which is surprising because I've always been a very goal-oriented individual. And I thought to myself, well, you know what, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna have all this free time, and suddenly I felt lost. And from my experience, what was happening was I started to enjoy the first few months, and then before you know it, I was losing track of time. I didn't know what day it was. I would get my days mixed up. I would have people tell me, "Oh no, today is Wednesday," when I thought it was Thursday. And I started going to bed also later. I started going to bed 3 a.m. in the morning and doing mindless stuff during that time. And maybe I was watching social media stuff and just kind of just scrolling and killing time. And before you know it, I was waking up at 11 a.m. in the morning, and I was feeling such a lack of energy, even though I had a good night's sleep, and probably the most amount of sleep that I've gotten since I was a kid. But I didn't feel this bundle energy, and the next day felt the same. But luckily for me, because of my martial arts background, I had developed this really good sense of self-awareness. And I noticed that was where I was headed. I knew that I was feeling lackluster. So I willed myself to get off the couch. And I told myself, I need to get off the couch. I need to go out for a walk, even though the weather outside, maybe it's raining, it's not very nice. I need to get out, get some fresh air, and get myself out of this rut. And that's when I start thinking about side hustles, side business, started about thinking other things to do. I started to weight train. I hadn't weight trained since I was in my 20s. So I started to make a goal to build the best muscles that I can at age 15, because I wanted to see, well, what would I look like if I dedicated myself? Because I think one day what got me into that was I was sitting in the front at my business after teaching class, and I saw all the young 20-year-olds in the back, and they took off their jacket and they had these rippling muscles, and I thought, wow, I used to be like that. And I kind of envy them, and I thought, well, what would happen if I dedicate myself? Can I look like that again, or come close? You know what? I'm going to find out. And I decided to start slowly and dedicate myself to weight training. And after a year, people start to notice, and they say, wow, you look phenomenal. And I haven't stopped since. And that was probably 4 years ago that I started training the weights again. And I don't like weights. I don't like weight training, but it's become a part of my life. And I also know the long-term goal of maintaining my muscle mass as I start to get older. And the other thing that inspired me to that retirement inspired me to do, and was to go back to my youth and think about all the things that I enjoyed as a youth that I kind of put to the side. And one day my mom called me, and she wanted to clean up all our items from our house that we had as kids, and she wanted us to get rid of some stuff as she started to clutter and look to downsize her house. And I went back home, and I started to look through some of the stuff that I had as a kid and old yearbooks, and I found these old track spikes that I used to run with, and I hadn't run track since I was 16. So I grabbed them from the box, and there was this, I remember the autograph of Olympic sprinter Ben Johnson, and I remember I got his autograph in '86, and it was autographed right on my spikes. So I started to look at it, and I thought, I haven't seen this in 40 years. And so I started thinking to myself, what if I decide to run track again, just one more time? So I started looking at track meets for seniors, and I thought to myself, you know what, I think I'm going to set a goal for myself to run the 100 meters again and to do the long jump. Now, I haven't done this since 1986, so that's a long time ago. And I think the only thing we worry about is I don't want to get injured. I don't want to tear an Achilles tendon or something like that. But I thought, that would be pretty cool to just do it. And so I set my goal maybe in a few years to enter the competition and to run against people in my age group. So those things get me excited. And I think now adding that to my agenda now as a semi-retired person is going to really give me some goals to strive for. And it definitely, by doing all this, by setting up a side hustle I read so many books now, and it's amazing. And I think retirement can be a great thing if you fill your days with things that you love to do. And I think that's where a lot of people don't, they lose out, is they go into retirement and then suddenly they don't know what to do after the initial traveling and all the free time. I'm very surprised because my father went through this same thing, and he's bored out of his mind, and I thought he would be really happy in retirement. He retired at 80. That's how long he's been working in his business, and he is completely lost. His friends that have passed on, and he doesn't really have anything to fill his day. And even though I try to, suggest to him to do certain things, he just seems like he's lost his motivation, and it's really sad to see him like this. And I didn't realize, or I didn't understand how much the business meant to him, and how much that having that identity attached to that business meant to him. So it's not easy, and it's not so easy just to tell my father, hey, you got to go do this. Why don't you go for a walk? When you lose your motivation and you lose your routine, it's really, really tough. I think it's more a lot tougher than a lot of people anticipate, because especially when you don't have your health anymore as well. That's another big thing. So what I want to share with you is my experiences, and hopefully that can help you out. And as I I mentioned before, and I want to make this analogy of a martial arts analogy because I'm a martial artist. So a samurai, right? For example, a samurai, they always practice even in peacetime, right? They never take time off, even though there's no battles to go to, and there's no imminent danger. They're always practicing and sharpening their skills because you don't know the time you're going to need them. And you got to think of your retirement as your samurai peacetime. That is a time for you to grow, to find purpose, to take care of your health, to maintain a daily routine. And I hope that that helps you, and my story helps inspire you to go out there after you retire and to do great things and continue to do great things and take your experiences and share them with the rest of the world. So I hope that helps you. And if you found that helpful, I hope that you would click the like button and share and check out my next video. And I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.